Well, joining us now is Caitlin Keating. She's a producer of Take Care of Maya, and Professor Sarah Katz, a clinical professor of law at Temple University. So, Caitlin, I would like to begin with you. This documentary was so disturbing to watch. We now know that Maya's family is suing the hospital for over $200 million in damages. Now, what I want to know is, when producing this film, what shocked you the most?
What shocked me the most, I think, was just how many people started contacting us during this production. We obviously focus on the Kowalski family, but when word started to get around that we were working on this, the amount of people that came forward to share a very similar experience was really shocking.
How many families have come out and revealed similar stories to the Kowalski family?
Yeah, I mean, when we were in production, obviously it was pretty top secret, right? So it was just word of mouth. But since this film came out, maybe I think 9 days ago now, we've had over 1,000 people reaching out to us. And that's just personal messages alone on Twitter and TikTok. I think there's over 20 million views of just even the hashtag Take Care of Maya alone. So it's overwhelming. But I think it really shows that we were onto something here, and that this really is such an important topic that needs to be addressed and discussed.
Professor Katz, medical child abuse does take place in the United States, which is known popularly as, I hope I'm going to say this correctly, Munchausen's by proxy. But how common is it? And are we actually seeing an uptick in accusations of this kind by hospitals?
So, yeah, the Munchausen's by proxy was the terminology that was previously used, and I think it's been expanded in its definition to be called medical child abuse. Basically, it's a catch-all for an allegation that parents are either seeking unnecessary treatment for their child or actually going so far as to make their child sick in an effort to secure unnecessary treatment. These allegations are really common, and I would say that they're have become more and more common as we continue to expand the obligation of mandatory reporting. Hospitals are concerned about their own liability if they don't report child abuse or neglect, and that's because of a federal law, the Child Abuse Treatment and Protection Act, the CAPTA, which requires states to maintain a system whereby individuals are required to report child abuse. And so it drives doctors and other folks who fall under the definition of mandatory reporter to make reports first, ask questions later, which appears to be some of what ended up happening here.
Like I mentioned, what really upset me when I was looking into this story was the privatization of child welfare services in the U.S. This doesn't exist here in Israel per se. It really wasn't until a pediatrician brought in, named Sally Smith, a doctor who was employed by a company named Suncoast Center, Inc., which is one of these organizations, and Florida outsources its privatized child welfare responsibilities to this company, that things really ended up going wrong for the Kowalski family. Why are there private child welfare services? Who's making the money here, and how does this impact stories like this?
I mean, the child welfare industry in the United States is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and I think a lot of folks don't understand that. It is couched in this notion that this is a system that is here to protect children, take care of children. But you're right, most states have moved towards privatizing the provision of any services that they do provide. And it makes it harder to hold although there is still an overarching government agency in each state, it makes it harder to hold those agencies accountable when it's private actors that are providing the services. Again, I think it comes back to concerns about liability, which may be driving
right.
Driving the vote.
Well, Caitlin, this documentary has obviously unveiled serious issues about child welfare services in the U.S. I mean, what is the lesson here, and who do you think needs to be held accountable after, filming this for 4 years?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, child welfare, mandated reporting exists for a very important reason. And child abuse is a very serious thing and it happens every day. So in no way, are we saying that that needs to stop whatsoever. I think it's just realizing that these cases are very complicated and they're not always so black and white. There does seem to be a rush to judgment in some cases. And I think that it's really, stepping back and realizing these cases a lot of the time are very gray, and that people from both sides, I think, really need to come together and examine what has gone wrong. And all these people in the child welfare industry got into this, to protect children with great intentions. And we just think after 4 years of working on this, that something has gone wrong along the way. And we just need really smart people to come together and figure out how to fix it.